What's going on, everyone? I hope you guys are ready for this week because it will be a big one. We have some giant events in the schedule, like crucial inflation data and a new interest rate decision. I know everyone's looking at the market right now saying, you know what, we have some stocks like Apple at all-time highs. We have other stocks that are still struggling quite a bit. And while all this is happening, we have very important data set to release. And all I'm going to say is I hope Jerome Powell is not looking at the rate hike situation like Conor McGregor looked at the Miami Heat's mascot. Yeah, a couple days ago, McGregor was supposed to be doing a product promo for one of his new companies, and it didn't end up going how it was supposed to. We can say that. He actually ended up punching and sending the Miami Heat mascot to the emergency room. So all I know is that mascot's going to get a hell of a payday pretty soon. So with that being said, getting more into the market-related news for this week, like I just mentioned with Jerome Powell, this week will be very important as we have crucial inflation data set to release 1 hour before market open on Tuesday, and then the day after that, Wednesday, obviously, we have Jerome Powell set to make a crucial decision on whether he is going to continue to hike rates or if it's just going to be a pause. Now, the thing is, right now, according to current market pricing, the market is expecting a 70.1% chance of Jerome Powell just doing nothing, right? Just keeping rates exactly how they are right now. And while that's awesome, the thing is that these percentages change a lot all the time, especially like a couple days ahead of the event. So like if this inflation data comes in hot on Tuesday, there's a pretty good chance that Jerome Powell might actually hike rates even more. And what's very interesting is that, if Jerome Powell hikes rates and no one is really expecting it right now, that can bring a ton of selling pressure into the market. And this is all happening while we have, some stocks like Apple basically at all-time highs. And we have the S&P 500 actually, believe it or not, technically in a bull market. So last week, the S&P 500 has technically entered a new bull market. So that is pretty interesting. And I'll tell you, it's been a pretty wild past couple of years because, when we look at a lot of these stocks, like especially some of the growth stocks, some of them are still down a ton from highs, But we see some of these bigger tech stocks like Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, stuff like that have recovered a lot better. And because of those powerhouse big tech stocks, the S&P 500 is technically in a bull market, but we'll see how long that lasts. But what's interesting though is because this week is so crucial because of the inflation data, a lot of people are starting to look around and say, you know what? Is inflation actually slowing? In some areas of the economy, yes, it definitely is. And in other areas, it's not. But something that I saw that was pretty interesting this week, we could see that as of right now, we are starting to see the largest rent drops since May of 2020, which is pretty good to see, and that will definitely help the inflation report. And on top of that, as Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve has been continuously increasing interest rates, housing prices have been coming down with that. So all of this works together in the economy, and it's just very interesting because what we're actually seeing right now is according to the Case-Shiller 20-City Home Price Index, it's down 1.2% over the last year. But what's scary is that it's the first year-over-year decline since 2012. So keep that in mind. But, that's all very interesting. But we also cannot forget to cover the earnings this week, which is just loaded. No, I'm just kidding. We actually only have a couple earnings reports this week. Oracle reports tomorrow after close, and then we have a couple other ones sprinkled in there. But to be honest with you guys, it's kind of a slow week on the earnings front. But that will definitely be made up for with the interest rate decision and then the inflation report. So keep that in mind. But let's start getting into some setups for this week. One stock I'm watching so closely is Microsoft. Microsoft has been booming lately, which is good, but it is starting to pull back a little bit in the short term, and I see a pretty big support right at 321. If it breaks below that, I think Microsoft has a lot more room to the downside. It bounced off this 321 support level last week on like Wednesday and Thursday, but I can see a retest of that, and if you couple that with some bad like inflation news, this thing can really sink. But like I said, that 321 support level will be crucial. If it breaks below that, I will definitely be watching this one for some puts. And then we have a basically copycat type setup here, and it's with Meta. So Meta is, pretty similar setup. It's ran up a ton over the past couple of months, and now it's starting to slow down a little bit. Now the thing is Meta's key support is actually at 260. We can see it had a pretty strong bounce off this 260 support on Thursday. And if it breaks below that, I think this one has a lot more room to the downside. The key thing with this one though is making sure that the momentum is actually there. So for example, if we go back to the Thursday chart, we technically had a break below this 260 level right here, but it was only like for a couple minutes, and the market itself wasn't really dumping over that much either. So if we see a real break below this, I think it can present a pretty awesome opportunity. And as we talk about, some pullback setups and, the key inflation report and all that stuff, it is worth noting that the market is up quite a bit over the past couple of months, and even just the, past year overall. And let's say shit hits the fan and the inflation report's bad and Jerome Powell unexpectedly hikes rates. How can you capitalize off that situation? Of course, you might buy puts on the S&P 500 or maybe short sell some stocks, but there are also some ETFs that do very great in times of panic. One of the most popular ones being UVXY. So basically what this ETF does is it just decays and decays and decays and decays. Just keeps on falling, right? But every now and then we see a very scary event, whether it be COVID in 2020, where UVXY went from 100 all the way up to almost 1400, or even other mini scares along the way. Whenever there is panic in the markets, UVXY basically rises quicker than any other stock or ETF out there. So if we see panic, consider looking at UVXY. This thing's at $2.25 right now. Depending on how severe the panic is, this thing can really boom. But like I said, it's only for a shit hits the fan scenario. So definitely make sure to keep that in mind as well. And then while we're also talking about, potential downside plays and, the market overall, it is also worth noting that, believe it or not, call option volume right now is actually at a 14-month high. So basically what we're seeing right now is a lot of people playing call options. And I guess it isn't too much of a surprise when you look at, some of these big tech stocks like Nvidia up as much as they are, or even Apple, and a lot of these other big tech stocks. But as the saying goes, inverse the crowd, normally is a decent strategy. So, as we have call volume at a 14-month high with a crucial, interest rate decision and inflation report, it all depends on the inflation report and the interest rate decision this week. It's hard to give a lot of if this, then do this scenarios, but it's this week and honestly probably the next couple of months will really be based off of this interest rate decision. And the reason this interest rate decision is so important is because Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve has been continuously hiking rates nonstop. And this is the first meeting where they're actually priced in to just keep rates where they are. They're not expected to hike them. They're not expected to lower them. It's just expected to be the same. So this is the beginning of a shift, right? And if Jerome Powell comes out here and he's you know what, actually, we got to keep hiking rates even more, the market will not like that at all. But at the same time, let's say Jerome Powell's you know what, the soft landing is going according to plan. We're very optimistic about the future. The market can definitely keep running like this. So it's this week and the next couple weeks will all depend on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I hope you guys are ready. Buckle your seatbelts because we're in for a giant week. But with that being said, let's get right into the momentum plays for tomorrow. With the first one, we have old reliable, GLD, gold. So basically with GLD, we're going to be watching this one pretty closely at this $182.80 level. If it breaks above that, we're watching it for calls. Then with the next one, we have one of the crazy stocks out there, Beyond Meat. If it breaks above $13.85, we are also watching this one for calls. There was a ton of bullish volume that came in on Thursday, but a lot of that momentum ended up dying on Friday. But if we do see a double top of this 1385 level, it definitely has legs to run. Like I said, it's one of those crazy stocks. It's a meme stock, but you know, we all know how these ones can be great to trade sometimes. And then with the last one, we have Google, one of the big tech stocks, and we actually have both directions on this one. So if it breaks above the $123 and like 73 to like 75 cent level, we're watching it for calls. And then if it breaks below the 121.50 support level, we are watching it for puts. So keep these ones close on watch. But you guys already know it is time for the big money $2.05 million trade of the day. And we are looking at none other than PAYO. So basically with this stock, someone dumped a little bit over $2 million into the 4 strike call options that expire on November 17th of 2023. PAYO has fallen quite a bit since 2021. They have highs just under like $14.50, or you could say $14.50 exactly. And then it ended up dumping all the way down to like, you know, the $3 range, right? Since that point, it has moved up a little bit, but it's definitely struggling. So for this stock, you know, when you have someone put $2 million into the 4 strike call options, you know, they're in the money at this point. It is making higher lows, which is a good sign to see. And it's not a bad setup. You know, is it my favorite setup in the world? No, probably not, but it's not bad. So I am going to have a close eye on this one over the next couple weeks and months. Whenever a big money trade, you know, of this magnitude, $2 million is made, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. So I think the biggest thing with this setup is making sure like this $4 support range holds. If that holds, that can be great. But if it doesn't, I would have a lot less confidence in this setup. So keep that in mind. But overall, like I said, this week is going to be the week of opportunity. I hope you guys are ready. We have some giant events on the schedule. I know I already said this a couple times now. You guys are probably like, Mike, shut up already. But it's so important. I just have to keep emphasizing it because you basically have 2 of the most important events happening not only in the same week, but literally a day after each other. And what's cool is that they're actually in the beginning of the week. Sometimes we have like major, I guess you could say major events or whatever the case may be happen on like a Thursday or in some cases a Friday. And it's just like, you know, kind of a buzzkill in some senses. But, you know, we're going to get the big news in the beginning of the week, which should be awesome. And one other thing I want to touch on really quickly, considering this week will be so important, if you are not already in the Stocked Up Discord, you are missing out. Join up. It's going to be that first link in the description, in the comments down below. It is completely free, and there's a bunch of other great traders and members in here. And we actually want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Kyle Am 408. You've been crushing it lately, so awesome job. He said it looks like he started with a $500 account recently, and he's been doing pretty dang good. So huge shout out to you. You've been in the chat for around 2.5 years now. And then last but not least, if you guys are not already subscribed to the Stocked Up YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. And besides that, let's have an amazing week.